Hello and welcome to From the South, teleSur's daily news show. We start off in news from Latin America. In Brazil, at least 10 inmates are dead after clashes between two rival factions in a prison in northern Brazil. Several of the victims were beheaded while others were burned during the incident. According to reports, the riot began when inmates of one wing of the Agrícola de Monte Cristo prison broke into another wing. Head of the Union of Roraima Penal Workers, Joana Maura, said the incident reflects a lack of interest from the state government. Fights and riots are frequent throughout Brazil's overcrowded prison system. Brazil and India have signed 4 memoranda of understanding during a bilateral meeting held in the Indian resort state of Goa. Brazilian President Michel Temer said trade between the two countries can triple in a few years. The accords pertain to the areas of genetics, agriculture, natural resources, pharmaceutical products, investment cooperation, and other areas. Thousands of Chileans marched in dozens of cities throughout the country Sunday in the third day of action to demand the end of the country's private pension system. The system was imposed on workers in 1981 during the Augusto Pinochet dictatorship, and despite heavy rains, more than 70,000 people marched in the capital of Santiago alone. The system forces workers to deposit a portion of their wages plus an administrative fee into accounts managed by private funds, which are supposed to be reinvested into the economy. Many workers' pensions are less than minimum wage.
The Honduran government is developing a new investment plan called Honduras 2020. The budgets for this year and the next will be designated to promote private investment above other sectors such as textile and agro-industry. Rural women in Honduras will be the most affected, according to an investigation of the Center for Women's Studies. Maria Santos is an indigenous campesina who is struggling to maintain her family in the department of Intibucá.
What we demand is support for the medium-sized and small businesses. We are organized campesinas, and we also have several small handicraft, pottery, and textile businesses, as well as bread shops and other small restaurants. We are well organized, but we don't have any support to make our small businesses grow, and it is very hard to obtain our own income as women.
Honduras rural women represent nearly a quarter of the population. More than half of the roughly 2 million women live in poverty. Only 14% are the owners of the land they live in or work. In the countryside, at least a third of families are headed by single women, and 70% of rural women can't read. According to the Center for Women's Studies report, not only do they not have access to credit, but they are the most affected by the lack of public services.
We are more than 50% of the population, and the government is not attending to the country's issues, because women's problems are everyone's problems. Investment in health is key for the country, because you go to hospitals and you see them full of women and children, but there is no medicine. Women's health problems are not a priority.
The Honduras 2020 investment plan has promised to bring more than $100 million for the textile and agro-industry sectors in 2017. It appears that the government is focusing its efforts on these sectors and forgetting the needs of the most vulnerable of the country's population. Gerardo Torres, teleSur, Honduras.
Almost 3/4 of Venezuela's 2017 budget presented to the Supreme Court by President Nicolas Maduro will go to social spending. That's according to Vice President for Planning and Knowledge Ricardo Menendez. He said the government is aiming at diversification with less reliance on oil income. The minister said that 83% of the national budget will come from taxes. That's an estimated $830 million. Another 12% will be financed by revenue from socialist state enterprises, and only 3.2% with oil exports, based on an average of the Venezuelan barrel price of $30. He continued that 50% will be devoted to health, education, and social programs, and 24% to infrastructure development, urban infrastructure, and public works. The Russian Defense Ministry has announced that Russian and Syrian armed forces will pause attacks on the Syrian city of Aleppo for 8 hours on Thursday. This will allow civilians and rebels to leave the city. Moscow had ruled out a lasting ceasefire, saying that would only give the Islamic State group militants in the city an opportunity to regroup. The UK bank accounts of the Russian television channel RT have been closed. According to the editor-in-chief Margarita Simonian, the reason for the closure of the accounts would not be provided. It was also done without warning. The channel's lawyers are looking into the matter. Iraqi government forces with air and ground support from the US-led coalition have launched an offensive to drive Islamic State group militants from the northern city of Mosul. This is the militants' last major stronghold in the country. Kurdish Peshmerga forces said they had liberated 6 villages on the first day of the operation. Construction work of a border wall in CHILE has begun. The wall is intended to prevent people living in the so-called CHILE jungle refugee camp from jumping on UK-bound trucks. The concrete wall will be 13 feet high and is set to run for approximately a kilometer on a port approach road. China has launched its longest manned space mission, sending 2 astronauts into orbit to spend a month aboard a space laboratory. The mission is part of a broader plan to have a permanent manned space station in service around 2022. 21 of the over 200 missing Chibok schoolgirls who were recently freed after being held by Nigeria's Boko Haram extremists were reunited with their families. Despite winning back swaths of territory from the Boko Haram, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has faced intense criticism for failing to recover the young captives.
The Islamic Hamas movement in the Gaza Strip celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Wafa al-Ahrar prisoners swap deal Monday. The deal saw the release of over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. Dozens of Hamas supporters gathered outside the headquarters of the Red Cross to mark the event. On October 11, 2011, Israel and Hamas reached an agreement mediated by Egypt to secure the release of the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit, who had been held in Hamas's captivity in the Gaza Strip since 2006.
On the 5th anniversary of the Wafa al-Ahrar prisoner swap deal, we reiterate our determination to free all Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. We tell our prisoners that the minds that worked hard, negotiated, and struggled to reach that agreement are capable of reaching more swap deals to end their imprisonment in the Israeli jails.
Under the deal, Israel freed 1,027 Palestinian prisoners with different political affiliations in exchange for its soldier. Israel has made previous attempts to free Shalit in the past, but talks with Hamas had always failed over disagreements about who Israel might free in exchange. In 2014, Israel re-detained 57 Palestinians who were freed as a part of the deal. Hamas denied reports published previously in Israeli media outlets that they may be nearing a new prisoner swap for 2 Israeli soldiers who have been captured by its militants during the Israeli war on Gaza in 2014. Noha Razin, teleSur's TV, Gaza.
And finally, about 120 multicolored paragliders filled the sky over Indonesia's Bali Island as they set a new world record for the largest number of gliders flying at the same time, more than the 99 involved in the previous world record, which was also set in Bali in 2009. And that's all for the news from the South. For more on these and other stories, you can visit our website, telesurtv.net/English.